This video has been very kindly sponsored by Squarespace. Hello, my name is Elder Price, and I would like to share with you the most amazing book. Every time I say hello, that plays in my head, but hi, hello, happy Monday. I have 2 weeks to make a bunch of stuff for my shop, and so I'm sketching a little bit right now just to kind of warm up and loosen up, and then I was thinking of doing just like a bunch of little gouache paintings. I'm very into drawing florals right now because they're easy and fun and colorful, so I was thinking that I might do a couple little like floral paintings, maybe a couple like cute character paintings, but I want to paint a bit today. And then this afternoon I have a studio that I'm touring, or a couple studio spaces, but I might bring you along for that. It depends. I don't know, obviously, if the like landlord or whatever will let me film, but we'll see. But mostly, yeah, we're just going to be drawing and painting today. So, pretty decent way to spend a Monday. I have my striped sweater on. I just got to get my tunes going, and I've got my tea, which I probably have to go heat up. But yeah, come, let's make some art, shall we? voiceover Cheyenne. So nice to see you, or you know what I mean. So I'm taking this moment while I'm ripping stickers off my brushes and getting my paints out and stuff. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform where you can build the website, portfolio, online store of your dreams. They have loads and loads of customizable templates, and you don't need to know anything about code in order to make your website look amazing. I've been using Squarespace for the past couple of years to run my own online shop, and I've loved using them. They have loads of really powerful e-commerce tools that make running your shop really easy. They have an integration with ShipStation that I love. And if you yourself have been keen on making an online store or website or what have you, you can go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And then when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/Cheyenne Barton for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you so much, Squarespace. So here I am with my with my obscene number of paints, and also as I'm just peeling stickers off paintbrushes that I haven't used yet. Just getting everything ready. Also, Sophie was being a little menace this morning, but now she's being a sleepy little angel. She's sleeping in her cat bed next to me, and I'm hoping she stays that way because I had a call back this morning and she was running around during it, just, causing a ruckus as she is wont to do. Anyway, I digress. Hi, hello. Welcome to this little painting montage. I'm starting here by sketching out whatever it is that I'm going to be drawing with some yellow paint. Again, it's been a long time since I've painted traditionally, and so I was like, you know what? We're just going to sketch with paint. See how it goes. I usually like to sketch with the Prismacolor erase pencils, but I was like, we're going to try and sketch with paint because I know I was going to cover up the background anyway with this piece, so I knew it was going to be okay, but I was like, let's give it a go. Also, my chair is so squeaky, so if you hear that, that's also what that is. I talked about this in my most recent video, but for the holidays, I'm not going to be selling my usual stock of products like my stickers and stuff. I'm planning on having a wide range of fun printables and things, but I'm also going to be putting up a batch of originals. So I want to make like a bunch of little paintings, which is what I'm working on in this video. And I also want to make some clay stuff. And I also have a couple canvases that I would love to paint on as well. So essentially, like I said, for the next 2 weeks, I'm just planning on making stuff. And so yesterday, when I filmed this, I just had a little bit of a painting marathon, and it was very, very fun, actually. Again, I haven't painted traditionally in a really long time, so I felt very rusty, and I felt very scared, but I just kind of went for it, and it was really fun. Like, I can't remember the last time I spent literally the entire day painting. It was amazing, and really just fun and freeing and satisfying to make. Like, I ended up making 4, like, separate finished pieces. One of them you're not going to see on film, because I did it kind of while I was on a break, so I just forgot to film it. But yeah, I made 4 little pieces that I'm very, very proud of, and it was so nice to paint again. Something that I was kind of trying to keep in mind while working on this stuff was process, because, or I guess like in particular like my coloring process, because I know how I like to sketch and I know how I like to do my line art, but when it comes to coloring, I still have no idea what I'm doing, whether traditionally or digitally. So like with this, for instance, when I was trying to paint this neon green on top of this very, very dark green, I was like, oh, right. You always paint your lightest values first, because that was something that just totally slipped my mind. But you know, we live and we learn. Like, look at this. Look how much easier the dark green goes on top of the light green. Again, it's fine. We live and we learn. And I'm really excited and scared, but mostly excited. My fear is slowly turning to like excitement about exploration, which is exciting because normally my fear doesn't evolve and it just stays fear and it paralyzes me. So I'm excited to see what I learn. My kind of goal though is just like whether or not I'm satisfied with something is to just like keep working on it and see if I can turn it into something I like. And even at the end of the day, if it's something that I don't like, hey, I made a thing. I like made and finished a thing. And that in itself for me is a huge victory because my perfectionism will get the best of me and I'll be 20, 30 minutes into something and then I'll be like, oh, this is garbage. I hate it. And so then I just put it aside and I don't bother doing anything with it. That's not bad. Bad. So trying to be better about just enjoying the process, and it's paying off, methinks. I've been drawing a lot. You saw earlier in the video. I took a page out of Fran's notebook, her wealth of knowledge, and I've started my own ugly sketchbook, and now it's the only sketchbook I want to draw in because drawing in there is so freeing, and I don't love everything that I put in there, obviously, but like, that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be pretty because I don't really post about it on social media or anything, which is really fun. And like, I love my Moleskine sketchbook. And now I'm just like, well, if I'm going to be painting more, that'll be a really great place for like doing thumbnails of paintings or trying to figure out compositions and stuff like that, especially since the Moleskine paper takes gouache so well. But I definitely, all I want to do is just draw in my new messy sketchbook because it's just really satisfying and fun, and I've finally been making an honest effort to practice like hands and anatomy. I've just gone on my Pinterest and I have found all the cute like outfits and stuff that I've saved to my different boards, and just trying to draw the poses that I see and looking at stuff that I have saved on Instagram and finally trying to tackle them. I'm focusing on like bodies and stuff right now. And then the next thing I need to tackle is environments and just like worlds and, you know, trees. Why are trees so hard? I was, a few weeks back, Connor and I were at the park and I was trying to draw trees, and they're so difficult. I don't know why, but for some reason, like stylizing trees is very hard for me. So that's been a challenge. Also, can I say that I love this blue that I put in the background? This in particular this blue is a Winsor & Newton gouache. This is traditional gouache, meaning that it's like water activated as opposed to the acrylic gouache. But I just love this blue. It's so pretty. I'm such a fan. Also, I really enjoy, even though coloring in backgrounds like this is really tedious, I find that I really enjoy it because it's so, you get into all the nooks and crannies, and it's very meditative. And like, it's same with how I like filling out a large space with tiny little like hash marks with a pen. It's just, it's satisfying, and it's very meditative and very calming. now we're on to our second piece of the day. Silly me, I thought that I had hit record when I like sketched this piece and when I was coloring it at first, but then I realized that I had not hit record, so that's my bad. Also, I'm recording this using my Yeti microphone, and I have like my big headphones on, so that way I can make sure that I'm not like yelling in your ear and my plosives aren't out of control. But I hear this very faint, like rhythmic knocking, and I think my neighbor downstairs is playing drums or something, or like practicing them on some kind of board without having to use a full drum kit. So hopefully you can't hear it, but I can hear it, and it's a little maddening. But anyway, I digress. I really like this piece. This piece, I actually might end up not selling this one because I think it pulls a little too heavily from Matt Forsyth's work. Matt Forsyth is an incredible illustrator. I really want to get Poco and the Drum, which is a picture book he recently did. I think that his textures, his colors, the worlds that he builds, and his handle on shapes and values is so incredible, because he doesn't do he doesn't really have like line work in a lot of his art, but everything is still very clearly defined, which I find amazing, because I feel like something that something that I need to practice more with is the idea of values. And so I feel like I should maybe practice working in black and white a little bit more, just to figure out that good contrast. And so this piece was, heavily inspired by his works and his environments and stuff. And it was great practice for me. And it was really fun to try out something new and try out different techniques and stuff. But I think that it pulls a little too heavily from his style. So I might try it again and see if I can give a little bit more of my spin on it. So I might just have to keep this one and be a little selfish, because I'm very happy with how it turned out. So, and I have some frames, so I might just keep this one for me. But yeah, I really like how he draws. There's another artist on Instagram. I can't remember their name off the top of my head right now, but I'll be sure to put it up on screen. There is another artist on Instagram who does really fun environment work, and with really cool, fun, bright shapes for trees and plants and stuff. And something that I am really drawn to at the moment is people that draw people that are super playful with their environments, where things aren't necessarily realistically or accurately rendered, or even where you're this isn't a plant that exists in the world, and yet I understand perfectly that this is a plant in this world that you have created within this illustration. And I think that I try really hard to, since I'm working really hard with my stylizations of stuff in the real world, I tend to get bogged down in the details instead of allowing myself to get wrapped up in the feeling of the thing. So people like Matt Forsyth and that other artist that I mentioned, I love the way that they build their worlds with really fun, interesting shapes. And of course, the viewer still perfectly understands what's going on. So working on this piece in particular was really freeing and really fun. And it gave me more of a clue into how I like to work with gouache and colored pencils. So even if I don't end up selling it, it was still a very valuable experience, and that is what matters. So here I'm painting on the roof with gouache. In retrospect, shouldn't have done this. Because I find that, so when it comes to gouache, when it comes to acrylic gouache, I find that certain colored pencils lay better on top of it than others. Like I find my Prismacolors oh my gosh. I find my Prismacolors lay better on top of it than my Faber-Castells. And I think that has to do with like wax versus oil color pencils. Or like wax-based or... Yeah, I think it's like wax-based or oil-based, I believe. I could be completely wrong, but I've done a little bit of research on it. So, like, in reality, I shouldn't have painted a layer of gouache and then done the colored pencil on top of it. I should have just gone in straight with the colored pencils. I think that I was trying to use the gouache to, like, make the lines of the roof a little more clear. But, you know, we're learning, which is what really counts. I'm very happy, though, with how the little space where the smoke ghost is coming out. I'm very happy with that effect of, like, the lighter... the little kind of like lighter negative space thing. I'm very happy with how that turned out. I really like the multicolored roof, but I should have used different colors. Like, I shouldn't have used such warm tones near the warm tone of the tree. I probably should have started off with like blue on the top and then worked my way down into like pinks and reds and stuff. I mean, I still think it's precious and adorable and I'm very happy with how it turned out. But again, watching the footage back, I'm like, oh, I know a little bit better now. I also go in later to like further define the roof tiles because I felt like they weren't defined enough. And so I go back in and I kind of work them over a little bit with a fine liner. And, you know, again, looking back, I'm like, that was completely unnecessary. They looked just fine on their own. But I get, you know, I get nervous about things getting lost. And I think I just need to trust my viewer more, but also I do need to learn more about values so that I can learn properly about contrast and things. I do love this little smoke ghost. So cute. So cute. I just like anything that's any kind of smoke. It's a ghost now. So, you know, candles, tea, anything like that. I just like drawing little faces in it because it just adds some whimsy and friendliness to the whole thing. IMO. Oh, excuse you, honey. Sophie just sneezed, so little sniffly baby. She's so cute. I love her so much. So this doesn't really show up on camera, but I went in with the same like misty gray green that I used to draw the outline of the ghost, and I just went in and did a little bit of shading kind of around the whole thing to give it like a, I don't know, kind of like a glowy feeling. It doesn't show up on camera at all, but I think it just adds, you know, nice little finishing touch. And then my signature to put a nice little button on the thing. I'm really happy with how that piece turned out. And then this was my last piece of the day. I realized this was the same thing that I did with the house illustration, is that I just really like sketching and then coloring in the lines. Makes me very happy. It means that I don't have to do any like, not too much. Sometimes I'll change the sketch a little bit, but then it's just kind of like a coloring book. And then I just get to have fun coloring in the lines. So that's a good thing to, you know about myself. I'm trying to like really figure out the specifics of what I like and what I don't like, instead of just kind of trying to, you know, blindly follow what other people suggest and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, what about doing it this way speaks to me? What about doing it this way doesn't speak to me? Which is why I think that experimentation and just sort of making stuff is really important. And when I often find that when I make a bunch of stuff, like for instance, when I did these 4 paintings in one day, or when I do like a bunch of work in my sketchbook, like those are the times that I find I have sort of the biggest breakthroughs and realizations about my work. And so sometimes I get comments and questions from folks asking about just like, how do you get through art block? How do you develop your style? And all these kinds of things. And honestly, you just have to keep drawing. You just got to keep drawing, because that's the only way that those problems are either going to get solved, or you're going to kind of figure that shit out. So that's what I recommend. And also, it's just a lot of fun. Also, I love that red. It's just red. Like, it's pure red. I think the color is called pure red, but it's so crispy and good. And also, I don't know what fruit those are. I like to think that they're pomegranates. This piece kind of turned out a little Christmassy. It was looking a little Christmassy with all the red and green, and then once I added in the blue of the flowers and the yellow of the little dandelions, it fixed itself. But I was like, this is looking a little too festive for this time of year. Still cute though. Something else that really intrigues me is how artists, like I'm thinking of like particularly like botanical artists or people that work a lot with doing like environments and landscapes and stuff, is how they make all their different tones of green work together seamlessly. Like they make their blue greens and their yellow greens and just all the different tones, they all work together so well. And then me, when I try and go in with like a bluer green up against these more like kind of like yellow olivey greens, I'm just like, oh, this looks weird. And so I'm drawing right now with this like lovely kind of foresty, or like, I forget what it's called. Again, so many colors, but this like kind of bluish green. Because I was like, oh, I want to try out using different tones of green. And then after I saw it and it dried, I was like, no. And so I went in with that dark sap green that I was using earlier. I also forgot to film most of the process of this because I got lost in it, but this is pretty much the finished thing. I just went in with that neon green, I drew in the little rainbow in the background, I added the yellow and the blue of the dandelions, which really did, and the little rainbow. All of that really, really helped to sort of have it not be a Christmassy piece. And it's just, painting is so fun, and I highly recommend it. It's just such a good time, and it's so easy to kind of get lost in the thing. Also, it's just nice to, I feel like I've been drawing on my iPad a lot, especially like on streams and stuff, and so it was nice to just get back into my traditional medium. I also want to learn how to use pastels properly. I used this just to add little sparkles, and it's like a water-soluble pastel. I know that there's so many possibilities, so much potential that I've yet to unlock. But yeah, this is the finished piece. You're gonna see a close-up of it here in a mo. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun painting all day, and I hope that me sharing the process and sharing my thoughts on things was useful or insightful. I'm still trying to figure so many things out, but hey, that's what art is, right? It's a journey, and we're on it together, my friends. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. And oh wait, hang on. Here's the close-up. Here it is. Oh, there it is. It turned out really well, don't you think? Not too Christmassy. But yeah, thank you to Squarespace. Thank you to you. You're lovely as ever, and I'll talk to you soon.